The first tap of a conductor's wand. The first rivet in a mile-high tower. The master link at the genesis of a never-ending chain. The moment a single empty canvas meets a singular master stroke. There is no one thing. Because now, there are many. Because soon, there will be more. Because one is ever the beginning. Like the first link in an infinite chain, or the first rivet in the tallest skyscraper. The master stroke is found in the masterpiece. What will you begin?
Hello and welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable, episode 103, the monetization of data. We're going to teach you how to be billionaires, okay? Pay attention to this episode. I'm going to be telling you my 7 secrets to success at the end of this, so stay tuned all the way to the end. Today we are joined, as always, by our amazing panel. I'll start with Distant, aka Dave.
Good morning ish. Good lunchtime.
I like that. We should get rid of like morning and afternoon and just delineate everything by what we're eating.
Yep.
Lisa, welcome to the show again, as always. And we have Greg from Rivet joining us as well, and Satoshi Sean.
It's kind of very hobbitish, isn't it? You know?
It is. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Wait, what's hobbitish?
Telling time by meals.
Yeah.
I like
breakfast, second breakfast, yeah.
11sies.
Dinner, supper?
11sies.
11sies.
Tea time.
I like 11sies needs to be like a thing.
I think
of all of them.
What I feel like 11sies is like plus or minus 20 minutes from 11 o'clock. It's not a precise time.
Right. It's like an
more like
appetizer for lunch.
Yeah. I love it. All right. And I am John Branch. You can find me on Den as T Swift or Die. Welcome to the show. A little bit of business to take care of before we keep going.
Whoa. I don't have a hashtag or secondary thing, but Lisa's is scaring me a little bit. Lisa's enough.
She's over it.
Today's the day.
Just
And
a
we
fan
will
of that,
talk about
early
that
2000s movie.
We'll talk
We're
about
gonna-
it later.
We're going to talk about hashtag enough. It's going around Twitter. It's starting here now. We're going to talk about that in current events after the show. So if you want to hear about what enough is, what we're enough of, maybe we haven't had enough. Who knows? We'll find out in current events later.
That's enough right now.
Yeah. So a little bit of business to take care of from last week. I got a little bit more. There it is. Each host from last week is going to receive 111 lot. Each topic contributor is going to receive 83 lot. Last week's theme was freestyle, which was it from Joe Dragon?
It was. I think it was. Yeah.
I think we had the wrong one last week under it. Yeah.
You never trust those things, those documents.
He'll receive 83 lot for his contribution of the freestyle theme. And then these ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. We also have some the World Blockchain Roundtable DAO for June's theme suggestions post is up. So let's check that out. I love the Peloton guy on there. There it is. You make the decision. So come in here and tell us what we should talk about for June. What do we have there now?
I'm going to try to vote for some kind of Q thing on our 107 episode. I don't know how I can manipulate that, but that's going to be my vote.
Q thing?
Or Pepe.
Okay.
Maybe we could talk about Pepe coin or Q or
You guys don't need Pepe?
107.
I've been watching the Pepe saga pretty closely, but I don't care enough to own any of it. I just think it's wild.
It's cool.
Just another meme coin.
I love it, honestly.
Yes.
I love it.
Go in there, type in your little ideas for next month, and also throw some energy around on what you want to see, because that's how we're going to find out what we want to see for next month. Great. And then this week's theme, the monetization of data, was nominated by Derox. Been doing a lot of work. Really appreciate Derox here. So let's jump right into our community questions. I love it. Our first question is probably coming from Derox. There it is. What data entered into the internet by an average user can be monetized? And when we think about average user, who do we want to, like, let's define that a little bit, because the average user for all of us can be very different.
It's a good question.
The funny thing is, do you guys mind if I start with this one?
Yeah, Greg, go for it.
The answer is the same, no matter who we are. It's amazing what can be monetized. You guys have heard a lot about AI. We all have. The way that is trained is on these massive rafts of any kind of data. We're talking a large part of how our brains work is we spot little patterns in things, and when we get smarter, like smarter people, they just spot more patterns, right? Like people who are just born gifted, they can just see a lot more patterns. Imagine a machine that is not limited by a cranium size, but it's instead limited by how much server space you can pay for, right? It can learn any pattern, even ones that we are not smart enough to see because they're way too intricate. So all the data is potentially valuable. You don't know, and that's why it's all worth something.
Great. So we're all doomed. Doesn't matter who you are.
We're all saved, I guess. Because there could be like the secret to human happiness forever, and the cure for depression and all that shit could be in the data, and we just can't see it, right? Like, so it could be our salvation as well.
That's true. Yeah. So Sean, how about we'll jump over to you next? Yeah. What kind of data is the average person giving away that's being monetized?
Well, I think the first thing is that people need to give a crap, and they need to show that they give a crap and start utilizing things that are already there. Brave browser and alternate technologies that have been around now. And in our little microcosm, we're so excited that, look, you can monetize your data here, and you can have control over ads and power to the people, and like it. I mean, it should be like the biggest thing ever, and people just don't seem to.
That's a good point, Sean.
Get it, when the market sees that, people really do want this. This is important. Well,
have you guys ever scrolled the settings on Brave for privacy and just like read them?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Like anything that you can turn off and block, that's data that they can technically sell, right?
Yeah, I agree with Sean too, man. If you want to bounce around a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
I am seeing people care about it more recently. Part of it, I think, is you asked the question, "What is the average user?" a minute ago. A question that I didn't realize needed to be asked until relatively recently was, "What is the internet?" Because a lot of people don't understand what the internet is anymore, or that what things they're using is the internet.
Dave, don't you kind of have to start at what is logic gate to get the right answer, though?
Well, you can. We don't have time for that today. But yeah, the types of data, specific to the question, the types of data that people put in that can be monetized could be something as simple as watching Netflix. They have an AI that tries to detect what you're going to like. That informs a lot of things. It informs what they recommend to you, but it also informs maybe what they're going to make next. That's probably how we got 27 different photocopies of the same TV show centered around people dating and getting married to people they never met and stuff like that. Anything that can inform profitable business decisions is what's being monetized, and that is everything you do, because you're somebody who's going to buy something,
right?
And that's the whole point. Is advertisers want to know who to advertise to, manufacturers want to know what to manufacture, things like that. So literally everything that you do is able to be monetized by somebody. And if we do everything through the internet, that means everything is being collected for that purpose.
How granular is it? Like, how tiny does the data matter? Like, can they tell about scrolling positions? Like, how detailed?
Yeah, you can. You can tell where someone's cursor is on the screen. You can tell, if they, like, there's heat maps of what part of a website people have hovered over the most to inform how to place buttons around on a website and things like that. Where you're scrolling to, what size, if you're full screen or if you're using it in window form. This is why if you've ever used the Tor browser, there's a recommendation that says just leave it the default shape that it comes up at. Don't try to full screen it, because that might tell whatever website you're viewing what shape of monitor, what resolution monitor you have, which might fingerprint you somehow. So all this shit you don't think about is like, it's there and it's going over the internet, everything you do.
Right. Anything that goes into a computer can get logged.
But there are, and so people are realizing that more now. It used to be just, Web 2 is so easy and it's convenient, and that's why it kind of took off without this understanding of how is all of this free? It's like, because it's a honeypot for your data. And so like what Sean was talking about is that with pretty recent trends of people starting to give a shit about that kind of thing and thinking like, hey, wait a minute, what do you mean you're profiting off of me existing? There are products now that are specifically designed to combat that, and Brave browser is one of them. So there's my rambling answer to that. And I think it's really important to just understand the extent of all of this.
I got to follow up.
Cool.
Well, let's let Lisa get in on this. Come on, guys. We've now commented on each other's things like 3 times.
So I think it's really interesting that I think that people only realize their data is being monetized because of Web 2, and people starting to become educated about it. Because if you go back, credit card companies have been selling your data to insurance companies, and our data has been collected in lots of ways and monetized. Business decisions have been made way before Web 2 or all that. It's not all just through the internet. So we kind of need to back up and think about our data every day. And we leak our data and leave it all over the place every day.
It's like since the 80s, right? Like since 1988, it's the oldest database that's still connected to the internet.
And this is something I'd love to add. Hey, I got to talk on one of these topics. It's great. One of the things I'd love to add is that it doesn't matter whether or not also like you're being good about it. Like if you're hiding your data and things like that, they can find out who's around you that's looking for certain things. So you might be off the grid, using Brave, whatever else you're doing.
Oh yeah.
People in your household look something up. They're going to give you ads so that you talk to that person about the item, all those kinds of things. So really, they can map you also around, just basically around the people that you're with.
So true. Yeah.
So on this question, like what kind of information are people really trying to steal from you or use from you, from the average user? It's kind of everything is kind of what I think we're saying. Sean, you have something you wanted to follow up with?
Yeah. The one word in here, monetization, is a sticking point. There's apps out there, and I have family members and friends who will jump through 1,000 hoops to get a nickel back. That's
terrible band.
A nickel back, but you know what I mean. Shop through this, do your buying on Amazon, but go through these 4 different steps, and you can get so much money back. And it's like, I got $3 from spending here and do this, and it all adds up. But when it comes to, I think what really will monetize our data, it's all on like crypto, and that's one of the things that held Brave back. It's like, I just used this. It's just like Chrome. The same guy made Chrome did this. It works great. Everything's so simple. This is amazing. And my stuff protected. I'm earning money. And then what is this? A crypto wallet? A private key? So this is my private key. Let me show you this. This is how. That's where it got lost.
Like the confusion factor, you mean? Like the complexity?
With the masses, we had to have better crypto education, because people will jump through tons of hoops in order to get a dime or a quarter, because they also have to how that works.
We also have to really change the way that we do regulation too. Like we have to, because one of the reasons like a lot more people don't use the ad monetization through, what's the name of the coin that Brave uses?
Basic attention.
Yeah, BAT token. Reason BAT token sucked and still sucks is because if you actually want to pull it off of the place where you can monitor how much you've earned, you first have to KYC. So yeah, it protects your privacy from the government and from the people who would like to use your data not to sell you something that you need or want, but because they want to harm you, or at least have the option to harm you. They want to be able to make threats that are credible, right? So, and part of it is making sure they know where to find you if they want to come with guns, right? That's what KYC is about. Ultimately, is making sure they have an address and a place where they can come find you if they want to point a gun at your head, right? And they do that with BAT. So like, yeah, you're kind of safe when you use it, but if you want to use it, like as in take it off and put it in your own wallet. Get ready to take a photo from 3 different angles while holding your passport, right? And that's where it gets dangerous, I think.
I hadn't used it enough to realize that it was a KYC required withdrawal.
It was dumb too because it was proactionary. Like they
get to that argument though. That's like a whole different. It'd be great to be able to worry about that, but I think just a regular Joe who doesn't give a crap about KYC.
Well, yeah, but we have to worry about it, right?
Yeah, but like the main thing is monetizing the data, not anonymity, not privacy, monetizing your data, and that's just to do that. People won't do it haven't done it because they don't understand how the crypto. And then
but it's like
to Sean, it, now you've got to go through an exchange to swap it out.
Why can't Brave just be a decentralized wallet, and why isn't there a dump on Uniswap button that automatically outputs cash?
Greg, I think that's kind of Sean's point, though. This question's about the average user, and I guarantee you that if there was an easy way to press a button in the browser and link it to your fucking bank account, full KYC, that people would do that. And if it was an auto exchange for US dollar deposit to your bank account, they would press that button and they wouldn't give a shit.
But if we built that, we'd be leaving people with a system that feels safer than it is.
And that's fantastic. And we should build that. I'm not saying we shouldn't build that. What I am saying, though, is if the monetization is happening off of our backs, our existence, without changing anything else, we should at least be able to get paid for that easily.
Well, wait,
and that's one way to do it. People aren't going to right now. People aren't jumping through Dex hoops. They don't get it. They don't understand.
But if we showed them how to do it and then hooked it into a system where they had to basically prostrate themselves before eternity and identify themselves on chain one time, anything they do on the blockchain after that, that's you. And you'll never be private again unless you want to set up a whole separate identity, right? Because now it's illegal to use fucking Tornado Cash, right? If we build that system for people and it becomes sticky, we will doom everybody who gets addicted to it. We can't build that yet. It's not responsible.
Interesting. I love that answer, and I like. So let's go into the next question because it's kind of on the same terms here. The next question is: with data monetization comes data control. Now we have no control over it. We agree to the terms of use, usually without reading 20 pages of legal text, and we don't realize how our data is being used and who is making money from it and how much. How do we make data control more effective?
Now, that is more in line with what you were talking about, Greg, with this question, right?
Yeah. I'll let somebody else go first. I've been talking a lot.
Who wants to jump in on this one? This is fun.
Well, I'll jump in, I guess. First of all, I want to say that the EULAs and reading contracts and stuff like that, a little bit off topic, but I think it's a great use case for AI. Like, AI, can you read that EULA and let me know if anything sticks out that's weird? Because nobody reads them. We don't know what we're agreeing to, that kind of thing. Yeah. But usually what we are agreeing to, as far as the control goes, Lisa brought up credit cards, which I hadn't even thought of, when we started this conversation. But my wife and I recently signed up for a credit card, and I went through and read all the fine print because I was like, what is it even in here? And holy shit, dude. when you say that they like own your data, they like own you kind of in your data. And they even talk about how they monetize it, how they have control over it. So we don't have any control over it, which is part of the question. What was the rest of it? We don't realize how our data is being used and who's making money from it and how much. How do we make data control more effective? All right. So the context of it is that, credit card companies and people like that do absolutely sell your data to anybody who wants to buy it. Now, how do we control it? That's where we can probably use a lot of the things that Greg was talking about with decentralization tech, where we can spin up an identity and say, okay, this is all attached to this identity. And if you ever want to burn that identity, you can. So you can still let it be sold and used while not necessarily attaching it to your, meat space identity. I think that's one way to do it, is just to be able to be allowed to have digital identities that represent you without being necessarily attributed to you, that you can then at least take a cut of what's being sold that you've agreed to.
Because it's trivial to set up a new blockchain address, right? Like you could have that functionally automated to where every time you go on to do something outward facing, you're proxying through a contract that is anonymizing you. Like everybody could have their own private Tornado cache on by default functionally. Right. I think that's how I would answer this question. Default privacy for everything. And you can do all that stuff now. It's just such a showstopper for people who don't want to run a home server with even the easy stuff. Even like there's this thing called Umbrel that's amazing, and you can just have really quick installs, run your own nodes, and then use that to interface with when you're transacting and all that stuff. Well, David,
but you're telling people to run a home server and a home node, and things like that.
I'm not. Dave, you saying that the system something that was a really huge thing, and no one gasped. And it's something that really should be talked about. And this is a problem with the whole system, is that you said credit card companies will sell to anybody, and they sell to criminals. I mean, if you're an evildoer on the dark web, that's where you go to get a lot of your beginning information, and that's you go from there. So I think that just like they're talking about wanting to hold a gun manufacturer liable for something that a crazy person does with their gun. I think that if they don't have to show any kind of responsibility. So if they're selling data to anybody and they sell it to like a known criminal, a known, like identity thief, I think that they should bear the brunt of some kind of responsibility there. If they have our data, they should, if they're going to sell it, they should only be able to sell it to reputable companies.
Or in the alternative, we could take the extra 5 or 6 years of necessary engineering time and build systems such that they are default private, such that in order to have your data sold, you have to learn how to turn that on. But it's easy if you want to, and you can turn it off again and it goes away. But
or with your credit card statement,
by default, everybody's automatically private. That was my point.
With your credit card statement, you should get a list of anyone they sold your data to, just every month.
Yeah, they have them identified as, there's a vague term they use called like data brokers or something like that. Data vendors or something like that. And it's not really clear who that is.
Middleman.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what there's companies that's their specialty, right? They take data from different sources, different credit card companies, Netflix, Google, whatever. They take data that they buy, and then they can, aggregate that and correlate that data to build profiles on people. And this is how you get profiled, even if, like John said, even if you're not necessarily super public about all of your transactions and all the things that you do, you still ride in the car down the highway with your friends maybe twice a week. So your cell phones get correlated on the same tower. And that's a data point that can be used to say, oh, these two entities are friends. So they probably, go to the same pub and drink the same beer or something, that kind of thing.
Right. Well, I mean, this is all like interwoven, right? These data brokers are, who their number one biggest customer is, right? It's the Department of Homeland Security and the NSA and the CIA. Like, they're buying all that data and just stuffing their databases with it. That's how we don't have bulk collection as a thing that they do directly anymore. They can bulk collect by paying your tax dollars to purchase your data. Like, you're getting taxed and then they're going to spend that on data, basically.
So how do we, is it regulations that that is the answer to Durox's question about how to control that? Is it we have legal infrastructure that dictates like how that can be used? What's the answer
I'll say this
there?
one time. I promise Lisa, I'll let you talk. We have to engineer these systems responsibly. We have to build them so that everybody is not just private but secret by default. You should have to turn on anything that reveals information about you to anybody, and we can take the time to build the systems so that they do that. We just haven't, right? Like we could do it. It would just take a lot longer and be a lot harder, and the reward would be at the end of the longer road. But we can get paid fast, but we could get it done.
Dude, every time y'all start saying 3-letter agencies, I get knocked off.
It's true.
I just wonder if these companies are going to, because we're saying this like it's up to us, like we're gonna prevent them from taking our data, or we're gonna turn off these permissions or whatever. But then that company goes, fine, then you don't get to use my product.
Mm-hmm.
You pay to play. That's part of their income stream. So how do you do it in a way where they're still gonna have their income stream, but you protect your privacy?
You got to pay.
That's a really frustrating point, though, dude. When you get the terms of service and you see it's 22 pages and you're not going to read it, but to get to that point, you want to use whatever it is. Whether you've paid for it, whether it's you've downloaded it, it's free. Once you've installed everything, it's the last step, and you're like, even if the AI says, yeah, there's some stuff in this that's kind of hinky, you're like, fuck it, because what are you going to do? What are you going to do if it says, I'm not going to use Windows, I'm not going to use Apple products.
Nice.
You're not gonna. That's the wrong group. I don't even.
I'll tell you what.
What Linux is, or that it exists.
Mm-hmm.
So they have what am I going to do? I have no other option. If I want to connect, if I want to go to school, I have to use.
Yeah, it's evil. We have systems.
I will offer a recommendation that maybe is not for everyone, but I think it's effective, and it's a way to not let perfection get in the way of progress, sort of thing. What you can do is you can literally start up an anonymous identity that you use for things that you don't quite understand yet, that you can't use for everything, right? You can start using a private currency. You can start using Linux on an old laptop. You can start using things that maybe, they're not really useful for you in your day-to-day life, but you're learning how to make them more useful. In parallel, you're in the system. We're all in the system. We're all registered to everything that we use, right? And over time, you can start phasing out the things that you would like to do more anonymously whenever you learn to do them on your other parallel installation, your other, $100 computer that you bought off of eBay. It's old, but it runs Linux just fine, kind of thing. You can eventually move into your own media server that you've learned to spin up, because after some basic tinkering, it might take you years. It will take you years. But I would say just have two different personalities, have two different identities, and don't talk to each other, and don't link them together, and don't fucking log into Facebook with them.
So
that kind of thing. And eventually you'll learn how to use this.
That is such good advice. In fact, everybody has to do that, even if they really want to be private. That's really the way you have to be at the deepest level.
I think that's great. I think out of the 5 of us, I might be closest to the average user, just out of everybody in the world, right? And something I was thinking about is my dad was a technology teacher, so I was always around computers. I understand what we're all saying, and so I think I have that little bit of a leg up, maybe on your average user. But why do they care about us, right? There's a small group of us and group of people that are I'm gonna take the time. I have the knowledge. I have the income enough that I can spend time researching this and looking this stuff up. Why do they care about us if 99% of the world doesn't care and can be marketed to and brainwashed to the point where hey, don't worry about it?
Well,
because we're jumping up and down and screaming and saying these things, and they'll just forget about us because we're a number, and they'll go after the 99% of everybody else that's not computer illiterate in these ways, that doesn't care, that doesn't understand that.
We just saw why you should care, right? Did anybody like being locked down? Did anybody like being vaccine passported? Did anybody like the idea
Sure they did.
brought to ask permission to leave your neighborhood? right?
Some
Like,
people,
really some
people were more okay with it than others. I don't think it's as
okay with it, but if you got everybody's heart to heart answer, they probably don't like it.
Here's what I think, Greg, on that is that, and to respond to John's question a little bit, is that things are still too easy and convenient. You're not going to have motivation or the stomach to do things that are hard and learn how to live in a new system without some hardship, without some things that you really care about. And some people only care about themselves. I'm not saying that the average person is extremely selfish, but we are all selfish to a degree. Until it's affecting you and your family, a lot of people aren't going to go out of the way to change stuff. So the folks that want to keep things the way they are today, the way that people are monetized, while those same people might be poor and could maybe use some of the money themselves, the way that we are able to like extract value out of communities without paying that community for what we've done, they better make sure it's really fucking convenient and that it remains to be really convenient to operate that way. Because when people start really realizing how much money is being made and pulled out of the local communities without anything being given back to help them sustain those communities, that's where people start trying to figure out how to do stuff differently.
Did anyone else see all the lighting change for Dave? Like
it's me. I have issues right now. Well, I have issues usually, but right now I have issues with my lighting.
You got jaundice, and then I was like, "Am I seeing? Everyone else looks the same." Yeah, you said something. Something I believe. We could probably do a whole show on it. I believe that the root of the everything evil boils down to selfishness. I think that selfishness is the ultimate evil. Any evil act, you can boil it down to selfishness.
Can I disagree with you a little bit? Enlightened selfishness is thoughtful of others.
Huh?
Enlightened selfishness is thoughtful of others. You can be profoundly selfish and be really good at helping other people.
That's different. That's not selfishness. Selfishness is all for self. And even if you're doing that, though, your intentions are not selfless.
What if your intentions are literally to be self-serving and you're just the best helper?
And you're not being selfish.
All right, and this has been a fun segment of morality with Sean and Greg. You can catch that every week. We always make sure we put in 2 minutes of morality talk into all these shows. And
we usually put in more than 2 minutes.
But this is just dedicated. This is a whole little segment. I love it. And if you want to hear us talk about the morality of current events and things like that, check us out after the show in the current event section. It'll be great. Let's move on to I Am for I Am's question. I like this. I like how he starts with can the panel talk about? Can the panel discuss the value and drawbacks of data that is monetized in the IoT world and in industrial
Internet
of Things world? An industrial part might not have failed yet, but is at the end of its life cycle. Many parts have, for example, a life expectancy in hours running. Large companies will often change these parts before they fail. A failure while in use can be a larger expense than swapping out a working part. Knowing this and sharing this data on a blockchain could be very useful. One might post their part use hours for companies to receive bids on replacements. This way, they can get the best and cheapest replacement cost. Great. Who wants to take this question first?
Oh yeah, I got this.
Greg, let's go.
That is such a cool idea. So I love where your head's at. In a world where we can use this data the right way, right? Like everyone, if you've ever driven like a car that takes high octane gas, right? If you don't replace your timing belt before it blows up, you're replacing your engine, right? You can't have that. That's why you go to those regular checkups. And those are really kind of estimations of the average car. If you had like blockchain-based data of the actual use of that part, or even like a sensor that could tell you right down to the level of like this thing is starting to fail at a molecular level, right? You could take that and you can basically have the system sort of background the replacement for you, where like the mechanic shows up at your door one day and says, "We've got to borrow your car for 5 minutes," right? And you're just like, okay, I'll sign off on paying the 99 cents for the insurance service that I get, right? That's the future of this if we can monetize data the right way. And we've been talking about the drawbacks, but that is one of the beautiful cases where it like does magic, right?
I think we talked about this too on the restaurant edition of World Blockchain Roundtable. So if you're interested in that, go back and check out that episode. It was a great episode. And we learned about pizza that episode. So it was wonderful. Dave, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this reminds me of something that the I don't know if it's the European Union or if it's somewhere across the pond there. Anyway, they're talking about enforcing things like what we like to call the right to repair, or things like cell phones that you can get fixed instead of just having to throw it away and replace it. So there's some ideas over in that area. I forget which government again. I think it's related.
In New Mexico.
It doesn't matter who it is. The point is that I think that this is a good use case for data monetization, because what they propose, what the rules propose, is a marketplace where service technicians, providers, and end users can do things like I am and what Greg described, where you can have your phone, for example, need a repair, and somebody can bid for that job to come out and fix your phone or your car or your TV or whatever. And a really cool idea, I think, would be to automate that whole thing to where you could put sanitized data up on a marketplace that sort of can predict when you might need a certain preventative maintenance or repair of things before it goes catastrophic. And then you can have people say, hey, look, you're up for an oil change. I'm in the area on this day. Can I swing by and do that for you? Or, hey, I'm a windshield replacement person, or I'm a cell phone tech, or that kind of
show
thing.
up with your loaner car.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that's a valuable application. And you can do it safely through cryptography and through blockchain and things like that, through digital identity and decentralization. You can do it safely to where even if someone hacks into the database, they're not going to be able to steal data that can be used against you, while still offering that data up in a useful way that people can maybe the companies that run these service calls can subscribe to these data streams to where they have access to know where can I go get work, who needs help, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Dave, I feel like you just described the scariest version of telemarketing. They're gonna know. Like I hate getting calls from numbers I don't know, and that's what you just described. So I am in a little bit of a panic right now. Somebody cheer me up. What's a good
okay? Well,
value
the reason is the surprise, right? You don't know if it's somebody you actually want to talk to. What if you could be sure before you answered that it was like, hey, someone's going to fix my car before it breaks down?
Yeah, but I want them also to be in like a cheery voice and not.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. It can be like,
I don't know. There's so many things like that.
I'm thinking of more of a notification on your phone though, where you can just, here's the top rated people that want to come fix your shit. And you're like, oh yeah, that looks good. Bloop, and then they come fix your shit.
It's
I
my
get
guy.
enough notification.
Yeah, but you're right. It's same kind of thing.
Your AI can tell you a summary of all the things you need to.
Maybe if it was offered through the car warranty, like this is part of your package deal,
like an interest list kind of thing.
That's exactly right. That's how it would work, right? A subscription service you buy when you buy the car.
Yeah, and then they just know where your car is. Show up
buy that you sell. This is data monetization.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You buy the service, and then they buy your data, but you have to pay.
Yeah, your car is the subscription or the NFT.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing with the tools at which I know I've talked about this before, at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. Is now they're selling tools with an NFT, which is kind of like your warranty or whatever, but it's also proof of ownership because tools get stolen a lot. But it's they can also like turn the device on or off with the NFT. So it also encourages companies to build tools or devices to last longer, because if you can buy another NFT to extend the warranty, then the company is encouraged to go ahead and make that product last longer because the product is a subscription and you will keep buying another warranty for your
Tool
Yeah,
theft too
10-year
is huge.
warranty is how you make money when you want to build something that lasts 10 years.
Lisa, that sounds like Judge Dredd to me, like the precursor for like, you know, only a particular identity can use a tool kind of thing. But job site tool theft is huge, and those are tools of the trade. That's people's livelihoods. That's important.
So another way I think we can address this, right, too, is having AI be local. Like if you train your own AI on your data instead of sending it to a server, right, then this AI can know and manage all of this stuff for you in the background. Like your own personal agent can like call out rather than you having to send it to a server, right, as a starting point.
So
I kind of love that idea.
This was my thought here for a second as well. Is there a way to have an AI, or just, it doesn't even have to be AI, but now that this is AIs are cool, we can use it. Have an AI that does searches for you, so that it messes with your data. So that way you're not getting ads for certain things. So basically you go, hey, AI, this is what I want the future to look like. I want people to not be selfish, because we learned that from the Satoshi and Sean and Greg corner. And I want people to know more about
you're just
technology.
baiting me, man.
I love it. Hey, I think you should add it to the not the Joe Rogan experience, but whatever you're calling the layer.
Crypto Rogan
experience. I think that should be part of it. The morality corner. I would love that. Anyway, yeah, could we have an AI that does all these searches for us, so that way we're not getting certain kinds of ads and we're not getting certain things. We're only getting certain information, and therefore it's also because the people that are creating products and marketing are marketing based off the data they're mining. So what if we were able to, all of us, without having to press a button or do anything, say that this is what we want the future to look like, and these are the fake search results we're going to have, and that's the information you're going to
Why stop there? Why not design it to passively do that for you all the time?
Well, that's what I was saying. Have it passively do that constantly, so therefore it never knows whether it's you or not.
Right.
Yeah, to steal a company's,
trying to make the world the way you want it.
Let's get Con in here. Yeah.
Called in and it's a prototype. It was started by this crypto security dude years and years ago. I like backed it. I gave him like money. I was supposed to send me a prototype. It took like 3 years for me to get this stupid thing. And I've never hooked it up. I've never used it. It's supposed to secure every part of your network, everything that's on your network. But I don't even know what it does anymore because it took so long for me to get it. I had to like really threaten the guy in order to get the device. But to have something like that you could plug in, that would just fake run, searches on Google. That would, you can connect it to your Amazon stuff, and to just say funny word. Like we're talking about the Super Mario and the pipes, and then you start getting ads for like Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like offensive security.
It's always
you guys have seen Her, right? Has everybody here seen Her?
That movie scares me, man.
Dude, that opening scene where it's like, I'm going to take care of all your emails. Inbox 0. Now it's time to get your finances order. Okay, your bank account's on the up. Your investments are taken care of. What next? Like it does it for you, right? That's the shit we need to build, right?
Yeah, but then what happened? What happened, Greg? He fell in love with it, didn't he?
Well, no, see, I think they spent way too much on that. I was far more interested in like how it handled dealing with like wastewater and bills.
That is the nerdiest thing.
Sean, it sounds like that guy sent you something called a pie hole. You should look up what a pie hole is, because those are pretty easy to use.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. That sounds like you're trying to scam me.
That's what it is. That's what it's called.
I tell people to look up what the Liberty Party is. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next question.
Blue waffle.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. So this is a great question, right? I don't understand how you choose the questions, but in the order in which the posts were posted, then take into account what the first questions are at the bottom. The questions at the very top is asked last. Not all questions can be answered. There are a lot of them. It is understandable. You're doing a great job. Thank you. I am glad that the topics I proposed are being discussed. Thank you. Great. Yeah, so we vote with energy on which questions to answer first, and the ones with the most energy are at the top, and then we go down the list, and that's how we answer questions.
Right. And for anybody who doesn't know what energy is, that's that little arrow button to the up and down arrows to the 233 in Derox's post right there. It's the up and down arrows.
One point of confusion with this one is that Deluxe, you might not notice at the top of any Den page that you're on, most any Den page that you're on. I'm sorry, at the top of the page, there's an icon where it can either be a flame or a clock. And depending on what mode you're in, you'll see the posts in different orders. So you might be watching the show in a different order than what your screen is showing you on your browser. The flame is by trending. That's what we sort by on the show so that we can see what's got the most, it's sorted by the most energy right at the top. And then the ones at the bottom, maybe we don't get to. Last week, there was some voting that happened in the middle of the show. So it kind of got switched up in the middle of the show. So another little twist there. And then if you have it sorted by the clock, if you click the flame, it turns to a clock. That's just an order of how it's posted. Just to clear that up a little bit.
Great. Yeah, so there's your answer. I think that was the best one. Anybody else want to jump in on that question? I think we're good. Yeah, and then I am for
Thanks for
some
thanks
comments.
for the kudos, by the way. That was nice.
Yeah, I am for AM had some comments. Great. Maybe we'll look into doing a lightning round at some point to get through questions. Who knows? Let's go to our next question. How do we stop the already existing monetization of our data? So what can we do now? We've had some great examples of things we can do. Creating fake personalities on the internet that can sign up for things that we're not sure about or use for things that we don't want our data mined from. Like you said, also using crypto, like using digital wallets instead of linking to banking accounts and things like that. What are other things that we could do now to stop that existing monetization?
I'll take this one.
Please, Greg, jump in there.
Go out and just like look around for a Raspberry Pi computer, something, some cheap computer you can get up and running easy, right? Sign on to it, and right at the beginning, pick a username that you use. Like if you never use all caps, use all caps. If you like to name it something, like if you name it after your pets or whatever, name it after something else. Pretend you were somebody else from the start of that, and that's how you do that parallel identities thing. You got to start building that. That is literally the only way to do it. So I would say, like, if you want to do it, like, start from scratch, practice it by like clearing the browser cache, close it out, start a new session, sign up for an email with your stuff being completely different, fill out fake information or whatever, right? You got to start learning how to do that. And it's not a very good question to ask for this because it's like the right answer is really detailed. But if you want to hit me up like on Twitter or something, I'd be happy to give you some starting resources.
But is that not illegal in some way?
It's not.
For now.
It's not illegal.
Depending on what jurisdiction you're in. Some countries don't even allow you to use cryptography.
That's what I was thinking. Also, like, could they just put in the terms and conditions? You're, everything.
You're right. They
You're the real person. You're not using an alias. You're not using an AKA pseudonym. Blah, blah, blah. So then, technically, when you click that, it voids it.
This is a responsibility for people that build software, though, to a large extent. And this is, I think, what Greg keeps coming back around to that maybe I didn't get until like halfway through this, which is that the way that systems are designed from the ground up need to be built so that the average user of that system doesn't have to jump through all these hoops. That's just how it works, from the ground up, that kind of thing.
And I think that's like a good point, that we have to have that like responsibility, because there's other people that are doing other jobs that we rely on, right? We might spend our time on computers and working with software, whatever it is, but there's other needs and things that we have, like, I don't know, doctors that like don't have the time for that, or the brain capacity for that. Cause like, my
great
wife,
doctor, you shouldn't have to learn about it. You should
exactly.
just have to, it should just not work against you. Right.
Yeah. I'm still a proponent of the we should include the mom morality code, where if your mom would say this is a good idea, then you're allowed to do it, and that's it.
My mom's kind of mean.
Well, we have it's everybody that thinks I don't want to do this again, but I'll say it really quick. Everybody who says their mom is the best mom in the whole world submits the name. Then they, as a block, take turns voting on different things that come up.
Proof of mom.
That's it. Proof of mom from the best moms in the world. In order to be a part of it, you have to bake an apple pie.
Moms
and
are way
send
too
it
okay with personal vengeance.
Righteous anger is a thing.
in. Yeah, you have to bake one dessert item and then send it in, and then if it's good, then you become part of the mom group, and that's how that works. Great. I think we might get
By the
through
way,
all the
Mom, I was
questions.
teasing. Love you.
I was like, should I do a little game, or should I do a question?
Happy Mother's Day to the mothers out there.
Happy
Yeah,
Mother's Day to the
thank
mothers.
you, Sean. That's
Happy
sweet.
Mother's Day, Lisa.
Thank you.
all
Thank you.
Let's get to this last question from I Am for I Am. I guess it might just be a comment. Great question. I think of Facebook, Meta, and how they own our data. I don't think we can stop them because it's in the terms and agreements of services and all that kind of stuff. Having said that, the best way to stop them, stop using them. The data will eventually get old and have less value. And I feel like we're seeing that. I don't know how many of everybody on this panel uses Facebook, but everybody's using like Instagram and things now, which I feel is, I don't know if it's true, but I feel like they're stealing less of my data. And at least
It's
less
the
of
same
my-
company.
You got to do more than just stop using them, though.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think what
you
John
gotta,
said
like,
is kind
park
of is better
a
than this. 'Cause
thing.
it's quicker. It literally like sours the milk before it gets to the store. You know, if you're putting out there all this just like fake searches and fake information, then all the data that they're getting on you is false. It's no good. So it literally just it's worthless.
The only sad
That's the way to go, man. It seems like the easiest. Remember
I think
the old
that-
way to hack people and knock them off like chat rooms at AOL was to have that spam bot that just sent like one sentence like 1,000 times
Mhm.
to their, and it knocked them offline. That it's something like it seems like something so simple to build, to just do random searches for stupid stuff. You know,
So the only problem with that, though, even though I'm the one that proposed the idea, the problem I see with it is that if you have enough fake data, then they can tell what the real one is and what the fake one is. So really what you're doing is flooding their servers with a lot of things they have to process. But then at a certain point, you become smart enough to not process the things that look fake.
Well, the
Does that
key
make
is you
sense?
just do some disingenuous things here and there, right? Like instead of taking your phone with you like you always do when your significant other or your sibling or whoever, your roommate goes to the store, like, hey, you mind if I just take my phone with you and just like stick it in their pocket or whatever? Don't just leave it off, but it'll still ping and check in with the tower. They think you went to the store instead of you hanging out at home playing video games like usual, right? Throw your patterns off a little
Not
bit.
much time thinking.
If you
about
poison
it.
the data well, then they can't really trust it.
Yeah, but I think it needs to be something practical that everybody can do. If everybody can
turn
take
their
one,
phone off and let their wife or their girlfriend go to the store with it one time.
You know what everybody can do is sign up for a free account on Den.Social instead of using things like Facebook and Instagram and all that. And you can monetize your own data there in a layer. And you
I
can
love
make
that
money.
solution.
how do we go the entire show without mentioning Den? Yeah, it's
That's
great.
the solution.
And you're
you
literally
can make an app
monetizing.
that makes your cell phone at times just connect to different, like the Tor browser connects to different, makes it look like you're in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Could, or a VPN does. Could you make like a phone VPN, but just for your signal?
Yeah, that's the answer, I think, Sean. New internet. Just another internet that's designed not to be able to do the shit that the current common internet does. And we just use that instead. Same thing with money. New money. Let them have all the money. They can keep their dollars. Fine, you won. We'll go use this other money. Bye. Stuff like that.
If we all stop using
Find
their
another
money,
playground. Yeah.
and their money's useless.
Yeah. And the true answer is there's not a whole lot anybody can do right now. I mean, it's depressing to think of it like that. But like, if you want to live a real like normal life in the normal world and be kind of like an NPC some of the time, like most of us have to be, right? Then you're just gonna have to sort of be beholden to this, because it is kind of an all or nothing proposition to opt out of it. Like, you can't even really be a hermit in a cave if you even want to have an iPhone. Like, there's this whole Jacob Applebaum interview recently with a hermit who like is asking, well, what if I just do this and I just do this? And then, you know, Jake goes through all this stuff and he's like, yeah, no, that won't work. Yeah, no, that won't work. Not totally, right? We're all sort of relying a little bit on the hope that we're boring enough that nobody who's dangerous to us can ever take a really dangerous interest in us. That's what Web3 is about fixing. That's like why we have to build this and why we have to do it right, because there needs to be a way out. And right now there's really not.
All right. Well, that we've answered all the questions. We've done all the internet things here on Den.Social. It's been a great show, and I'm gonna leave time for us to like actually do proper outros and plug things that we want to. Look at that. Gonna get us out of here on time. Let's take a look here. Yeah, great.
The week no one has anything to plug.
Yeah, and this is a little segment called Plugs, which I just stole from another show, so don't steal that. I'm still trying to think of like a cool little segment for this and how to do this, but I'll figure it out. I'd like to thank all of our hosts for joining us. Thank you, Dave, Lisa, Sean, and Greg for joining us today. Yeah, anything that you'd like to plug? Dave, you want to go first? Anything you want to talk about? You've got about 30 seconds.
Yep. In a couple of hours, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time, over on Den.Social in the Den.DAO layer, and on Den's YouTube channel, and on Den on Twitter at Real Denizens, we will be doing a governance call. It'll be short and sweet today. So if you want to mess that up and make it long and drawn out, show up. It's open to anyone. There's a link to join. Go do it.
I'll be there. Don't worry. I'll screw it up.
That's my favorite thing. Now I want to go and just really draw it out. Lisa, anything you'd like to plug, or anything you'd like to say that we're going to talk about in current events? If there's something on your mind, I don't know.
We can just talk about lots of things in current events. But the thing I want to plug is our upcoming meetup in Peoria, Illinois, at Peoria Pizza Works on June 23rd. So the weekend after Father's Day. It's free, open to the public. We'll be talking about cryptos, freedom, and for lots of friends there. So you guys join us if you can.
Cool. And then stay tuned for the current events section where we'll find out what exactly is enough. I'm excited for it. Sean, anything you'd like to plug?
Just check out my YouTube channel. Me and Lisa have a show on Tuesdays. We do Culture Tuesdays. That's about it. Not much going on this week, man. Happy Mother's Day, like I said to the mothers out there.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
Not the single fathers. Not a mother.
You have a whole month for you next month.
Yeah, I know. Everyone, but on Mother's Day, everyone's always Happy Mother's Day to you too, Sean. I was like, no, man, not a mother. And then all the single mothers were like, I'm a dad. I should get. I was like, no, you're not a dad. You're a single mother. You're not a dad. You never be a dad. You're not a mom. Just a single parent.
Great. And if you want to hear us discuss what exactly is a single parent, things like that, join us in current events, because Mother's Day is a current event. Greg, anything you would like to plug?
Two things, real quick. One, you can follow me anywhere that you like to use social that I'm on. At Design Heretic, it's under my thing. It's how it's spelled. Mashed together two of my favorite words. Okay, I guess that's three things. Second thing is, guys, come join the crypto Rogan Lair. We're going to do a show. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be me asking all of the questions I can think of all of my favorite people. So, and Lisa, I got to get you as a guest on there too.
Oh goodness. Okay.
We're actually, all of you guys have to be on at one point, because if you've ever watched the early Joe Rogan episodes, it's like he just brought his friends on and sort of made them.
Doesn't he get them hammered first though?
But I'm sorry.
Doesn't he get them hammered first?
No, that's drunk history.
Right. we can't have drinks. Like, I'm totally down for that.
I thought that
fully
was
intend
his
to.
show.
It won't be streaming, so we're going to build seasons and then we'll launch them. But it's going to be super cool. I'm excited about it. Come join the lair, share your ideas. This is going to be a community built thing. So,
hey, follow me on Den. No one's following me on Den, you bunch of jerks.
And last thing, if the last thing, or the things I've been talking about when I've gotten a little dark this episode, bother you too, and you're not building something to help solve the problem, come do it, and Rivet can help. Like, Rivet's built by people who think like I do. We're pissed off about the same things. We're trying to fix the damn problem. So if you want to build something on a stable foundation that isn't going to basically rug you with privacy issues from the start, that's where you start. So come join Rivet, build something that will solve this problem, because we have a responsibility if we can do something about it. So
that makes me feel good. Yeah, we're all out here discussing the problems, but we're also all out here trying to make it work. Great. And as for me, my name is John Branch. I've got a website that's now updates where I live at johnbranch.info. Also, I I teach improv comedy classes online. So if you're interested in taking an improv comedy class, I just posted one. I put the link in the chat. If you've ever wanted to take one or wanted to learn more about it, there it is. It's like writing and performing on your feet.
Cool.
It's a lot of fun. I'm excited to teach it, and I'm excited for the Joe Rogan experience, crypto Joe Rogan experience. I hope I get invited on at some point.
Oh yeah, no, you're totally coming on.
I'll be there. I'll make some cocktails during it. It'll be a great experience.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much. Stick around for current events after. And we've been the World Blockchain Roundtable. Next week, I need to talk about that real quick. Next week's theme is fiat on and off ramps. There you go. Leave a blockchain related question or topic in World Blockchain Roundtable layer to have your questions answered. As a reminder, share this episode. The more you share, the more our hosts and our topic contributors get. And also you do too, because you get to experience this. Like, comment, subscribe, and all of those things. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
While nuclear weapons states can exert unlimited violence over even millions of individuals, strong cryptography means that a state, even by exercising unlimited violence, cannot violate the intent of individuals to keep secrets from them. Cryptography is the ultimate form of non-violent direct action.
Hey.
Fun show. I like that one.
It was episode, what was it, 103?
Yeah, 103.
Cool, man.
Only
03.
4 more to go till 107.
What's 107?
What?
So
like
much
17.
cypherpunk content for this episode to prep for it.
It was what?
insane.
What'd you say, Craig?
I just watched so much cypherpunk content. Like I went on YouTube and I was like, I'm gonna see what the latest or the last thing Julian Assange is allowed to say, and then watch a video. And then I'm gonna look up Jake Applebaum, and I'm gonna look up, I just went through my list of heroes and checked out what they're doing online about this.
I have been seeing more conversation about Assange lately from people who are like pressing media personalities to be like, hey, you're like Freedom of the Press Day, for example. It's like, hey guys, elephant in the room over here, a political prisoner journalist, what's up? Why don't you care? So it's good to see that people are starting to ask those questions.
Yeah.
But that was cool.
Do you
Today.
think you're asking those questions, or do you think it was that day, International Day, and so that was the
Well, I think it's like
thing to do?
it's kind of a version of people wearing a ribbon for awareness, sort of thing. Just putting it up there to just be something that's talked about, so that people maybe would just ask a question like, "What is this guy talking about?"
Yep.
Because a lot of folks don't understand what's up.
Yeah, it's really screwed up. And honestly, if they get away with what they're trying to do, like if they actually bring him to the United States and prosecute him, that sets a precedent with like basically anybody who publishes secrets from any nation from the United States can be extradited to the United States even if they're not a citizen and have never been here, which is true of Assange. He's actually
and that's
now
kind of
you can sell the secrets and make your families millions. Joe Biden
should be able to buy them. Honestly, it's good for public disclosure.
All of that with $10 million coming into the Biden family through 9 family members through shell companies. If we're talking,
that's par for the course though with politicians.
But it's okay when they do it.
Yeah, and so that's like with today's topic with data monetization and things like that. Somebody said something about basically it being misused by governments and stuff.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be the American government, although it frequently is. There's a lot of governments out there even worse than the U.S. government when it comes to misusing private data.
Well,
so
just the same entity now. Like, isn't it like the Five Eyes? Pretty much just like they've got every continent covered except for China and Russia.
Well, there's the Five Eyes, and then there's another one that's like more. Okay. There's a bigger number than that, but yeah, Australia, UK, Germany, whatever. Is it New Zealand or
that was Ed Snowden's freaking job when he was working for them still.
Yeah, and so these are all in addition to the conversation on monetizing the data, there's the question of you brought up Snowden. One of the things that was revealed with that disclosure was literally just using things like Google's user data as a state database of user data. Something that they can use to track people, basically.
Well, I mean,
So it's just without even knowing exactly what it's being used for, it's just weird. It's just
to me,
uncomfortable, and it's has this potential for abuse that is not
right.
That doesn't sit well.
To me, the evils of the monetization data, the worst parts of it, and the government angle are intertwined, right? Like that's the private-public partnership part that is dangerous, right? It's really more to me, though, a problem of they let them get away with unscrupulous things, and they aren't going to change it, so we get some money from it, sort of as a side deal, so that they can continue to have a panopticon and an easy way to send men with guns if they want to, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to threaten to show up at your door with guns, and then the other guys want to be able to get away with never giving you your cut, and they work together.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like somebody who's kind of just like given up, but part of me does feel like at least people can be cut in on the monetization, even if nothing else changes. We could at least cut people in on the monetization part, because folks are not with AI and automation and things like that. More and more folks are going to be left out to dry with no way to really pull them up. So what was it, like bootstrap themselves, basically.
Right. Well, you have to be a technically gifted actor to even have a chance at retaining privacy. So at least give people a cut. But like at the same time, if we make it too mutually beneficial, then we sort of like, have you ever had a tick latched to your skin? Like what if it
I live in Florida, bro.
Shot out little
I've had ticks.
Would you take it off at that point? Or would you leave it on there so you could harvest gold from a little bit of gold from your blood?
Yeah, well, it depends on how much gold we're talking about.
Let's say it gave you like a meaningful amount of gold, enough that you could live a subsistence level existence and pay for a cheap apartment with.
Well, if I'm going to get ticks anyway, that's kind of my thing. Is if let's say there's no way to get rid of the ticks, you just can't. It's just too late for that. Then can we at least make the ticks less one way about
there's maybe a way to get rid of the ticks as long as we don't take the gold trade.
Y'all are gross.
So is there a way that umbrella promise kind of works in this model?
Mm-hmm.
Similar to that, yeah. And it's on the same note. That's something that I don't know if IM designed it with this in mind, but it's my takeaway, which is that even if it doesn't fix everything, it will at least reroute influential money through local communities as a way to rig the outcome of legislation being written. Even if we don't get rid of corruption, even if we don't get rid of hired regulators, lapdogs, things like that, it will at least redirect the flow of value through local communities, which would have a better outcome than what we currently have. And that's one of the things that I like.
So the trade might be that we can't get rid of them ever.
You made a comment that World War III starts at 5 p.m., news at 11. If we make it to tomorrow, the banks fail, but we do get CBDCs by Saturday. There's a tweet that Bloomberg put out that they're looking at going after or putting a freeze on shorting any bank stocks.
Are they?
Really? Are you fucking kidding me?
No, regulators should look at
such bullshit.
Putting a short selling ban on banks. J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon says that they should put a freeze on us. A freeze on.
He would say that. Yeah, of course he would say that.
That's not all.
Start a fucking meme coin.
They should. Then he said, like, go after anyone vigorously who, like, if I want to short the banks, you short the banks, and then you do any kind of tweet or you talk to anyone about banks going down, they should go after you for manipulation.
This is the kind of thing that makes databases full of personally identifiable information fucking dangerous.
I put the tweet in the private chat. You can put it up and
The cobra effect on this one's going to be a doozy.
And hear what he says. He lays it straight out.
It's not even like it's not a what if. It's been demonstrated in the past as well.
Short positions, when something looks like it's going down, people dump.
I think it was
cause a run on their stocks.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go off the deep end there for a second. Maybe I still will in a minute, but I'll pause for now. But yeah,
that's fucked up.
So you guys were talking about
I'll save it for your show.
Being able to like monetize your data and things like that, and having it be that little gold coin leech that you constantly get like a meaningful income from. And I think like maybe that's the universal income model that you need.
Well, but
like,
it's like impossible to get somebody to see something that it's in their self-interest to not see, right? Like if we pay people,
can't say that word here,
and the
can't say that,
and the system isn't fixed before we do, we'll never get people to get rid of it.
With the umbrella promise, it doesn't come back to an individual; it goes to the community. So I think that's a way that it's not an enabling or a sick, unhealthy relationship. Like if I know my data is going to make my schools better, fix my roads, on the road that I drive on, because it knows I drive on it, that every time that data is gathered, then those that income value, whatever it is, goes into that fund to maintain that road. Then that makes sense,
Right. Well, I mean, and you do have the ability with crypto-based systems like that, or like crypto. I assume that the implementation of it is crypto-oriented, but you have the option to withdraw your support if they start to break the promise. There's accountability that's pretty direct.
One of the difficult things to maybe not difficult. One of the less common mindsets, I guess, is the reality that there's things that we can do if we want to. It's just a matter of organizing around them.
Well, not even that hard. Like we just have to stop supporting them.
That idea that Lisa just described, that's kind of like, and maybe a more understandable, simplified version of that would be the music industry. If you sell a record, and anytime anybody purchased that record, the payment was automatically distributed to everyone who had a hand in creating it, whether it was writers or performers, the bass player, the drummer, the album art, the packaging, all of that stuff. And so it automatically pays out in real time as you're purchasing it to those
down the
individuals.
Line, the guy who swept the floor at the plastic factory for the CD case.
Yeah, and so then the same kind of thing could be applied to purchasing data from a data vendor, where you pay for data, and the data vendor gets a cut. That's their business, but a cut goes to everyone involved with producing that data as well.
Right. Well, and
that could be built. That can totally happen.
I think what Greg said about the universal income, that's an amazing idea, and gives dignity back to people, because you're not just getting assistance. You're actually, you're getting paid for your data. It's like the
value you add to the world is
even if you're contributing somewhat to the income that you're getting, even if it's whatever, like a token kind of thing. It still is something, you're not just getting the assistance. You're
producing something still.
Yeah. And I am. He's really hitting everything. He said, step one, short your bank by using local banks. I don't know if you know this, but that was what they did the past month, is they targeted all local and regional banks. Put them out of business.
Oh yeah,
they
exactly.
Crushed them. And
they're getting ready to quote regulate the solution here. They're going to fucking clamp down on local banks is what they're going to do.
Yeah, they're going to crush them, because that's what you're.
And that's not even a secret. It's just that people aren't watching C-SPAN because it's boring. Janet Yellen spelled that out to Congress in her response.
And long-winded, and they employ boring people to screw you over in the banking system because they want you to be too bored to watch it. Mm-hmm. That's the whole trick. If people actually could hear them say it plainly, and they said it plainly, there'd be a revolution tomorrow, right? Was Henry Ford's quote.
And you talked about like if you had that like a universal income, then people could actually spend the time to watch these things and observe these things. If they're not working 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, when the weekend is just so that you can do laundry.
Why don't we monetize people's engagement with policy?
Yeah.
Imagine people having the security enough to educate themselves and develop skills that they're really interested in and build new innovative systems and actually pursue their passions where they might otherwise just have to scrape by, There was recently a proposal from the Biden administration that I liked, which is typically far and few between, where
sometimes there are diamonds in a turd.
Yeah. So there's a hiring practice where you will look at someone's wage history to determine what wage you want to pay them when you hire them. And so there's a proposal to ban that practice, to not take people's prior wages into account, to just hire them for what the position is worth.
If they're figure out what that
if they're good enough to do it, they're good enough to do it, plain and simple. And the reason I think that's important, real quick though, is that we do have things like income inequality that are not easy to solve. And one way to help that is to not get someone stuck. If somebody has to start in something that's low wage because that's all they can get, it makes it way more difficult for them to catch up if they can only increment their salaries by a certain percentage because, you had a low paying job. So you're going to be basing your next job on that income and that kind of thing. So getting rid of that practice, I think is healthy.
I understand the positive intent there. And I agree with you that employers should be better than that, right? Like really great employers will value their people, and really great employers will recognize that that they're going to lose talent if they give marginal increases only. Like they're not beating inflation barely or whatever. You're going to lose your people to better gigs, right? And it's especially dangerous for grocery store owners because they are operating on razor thin margins already, and they. I guess my point of this is like it's really hard to figure out what to pay people when you hire them. I don't know if you've ever tried to do it, but we've had to figure that out, right? Like we don't know a lot as employers when we pick up new employees. Like we don't even know exactly what they ought to be paid. We can't look at Glassdoor. Like that's just going to tell us what San Francisco pays, right?
That sounds like a business modeling issue, though, right?
It's not. It's really hard to understand the market rate for a thing that you need to buy in a specific area. Right. It's more like, it sounds silly, but, and it's scary for people who are looking for jobs, but people should negotiate harder. And I encourage them to, when I talk to them, it's like, I try to be a little bit more ethical about it. I think if you were going to mandate anything, you mandate like a disclosure about the fact that employers actually have no idea what the fuck they're doing when they're hiring also. And to me, it's off the table is very unhelpful.
To me, it's a privacy issue.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. It's
how
going
do they
through.
know how much you make? If I went in for a job and they're like, how much are you making at your other job? I'm like, well, mom asked me not to tell you. I wouldn't, there's why?
You're
hiring for this
your
job.
Your payroll system sells data.
I think
you hire a payroll provider, it sells data to data brokers. That's how they know.
Also, if you're in an industry and long enough, you can kind of at least get an idea of a ballpark for people and things like that. I think a good thing is here's the thing too, if you make enough money that you can do this, you can hire people that will negotiate your salary for you. And I think the thing is that if you were to do that, that probably turns off companies from wanting to work with you.
It's not true.
If
somebody came to me with a reasonable offer and I didn't have to figure it out, I would be excited.
Greg, you're a reasonable person.
Right.
That's the problem.
People do.
The guy
Most
who owns
people are reasonable people. The good ones that deserve to stay in business are reasonable people.
The guy who owns the multi-million-dollar insurance company that employs like an entire town practically.
Right, but he runs a governmentality, not a business.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's worth for people to like just know the fact that like, hey, there are wage brokers out there that'll help you do this because it's hard to do.
Just like, but is the person sitting in front of you worth more? Right? Are they? How do you know? What if they got paid way more than what it suggests they ought to get paid in the index that you're allowed to use? Like, are you allowed to go above that? I don't know. But it's really helpful to know what people made before. It really is. And I guess I could see how it might be misused by the unscrupulous, but it would hurt my business if I couldn't use that information.
I don't know, man. I don't think in this specific context of several people who are qualified for the same one position being paid differently based on what they made before, like being limited in what they're allowed to make in it based on what they made before.
To keep it secret for me when I'm competing for the best people. Why would we want to mandate that? That only ensconces incumbents. You know, like
are you measuring people's value as an employee based on
get them to say yes to a job offer?
Well, you ask them. Typically, there's a question. What is your minimum salary requirement?
Right.
There's
a salary requirement is part
question on the application. It's what?
Isn't the minimum salary requirement question what they're trying to outlaw pretty much?
No.
I always want to make at least a little more.
No, what they're trying to outlaw is specifically within, and this is just applying to federal jobs, federal government jobs. What they're outlawing is looking in a database to see what you made somewhere else and saying, oh, you were making this much over here. You should be happy with just getting a little bit more. We're not going to pay you as much as we might have paid Joe because Joe came from a different position with a higher rate. It's the same fucking job, the same qualifications. We're going to pay people differently based on what they made before.
So
and the idea
the government doing this, not they're talking about the government jobs doing
this. This is not private.
Oh, okay.
This is only for state.
Different problem there. Don't we want to suppress the cost of government? Like, isn't that our tax dollars? You know?
I don't know if that's a cost of government issue so much of it's an equality issue.
Is it? Or is it just
sure?
The governments are going to pay themselves more?
Yeah, if somebody because of their circumstances gets a bad start and they're stuck in that rut because they can't escape a cycle of you can only get paid based on what you got paid before.
How's that a thing so the government pay scales are already disadvantageous is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, so if they maybe opened up a free market for government jobs, then maybe they could solve the problem not by making a new rule, but by taking old ones away.
Right, but we have people that are already in even the world today exists already. Yeah, right. In a vacuum, you could start everything over, but like you have to take what exists today. You're like, oh man, you know what? We allowed a lot more bullshit to happen in the past, which has created a specific situation currently that is not ideal. We have to somehow use that. This is what we have. But it's not the army we want. It's the army we have.
But we keep trying to solve the Cobra effect by tacking on new rules about the sale of tailless Cobras, right?
What is the Cobra effect again? What is you've referenced that a couple of times. I know that is like a healthcare thing after you get fired, but what is it?
It's actually an apocryphal story. So when the colonial rule in India was happening, right, the local organized government unit from the East India Company or however the hell that worked, right, noticed a Cobra problem. So they issued a bounty to the public saying, bring us Cobra tails and we'll pay you. Well, what they ended up with at the end of it was way more Cobras, but a lot of them without tails. And they even started busting Cobra farms where people were breeding them and they cut the tails off and they'd take them for the bounty and then they more. Well, when they stopped it, all those people released their Cobras. So they actually ended up with more Cobras, even though they had this well-intentioned policy to help people. The effect of it was to blow up in their face and cause more.
And Cobras. So with this analogy, you would be saying that
we run the risk of a Cobra effect blowback that will make things worse, not better.
Okay, just in general, make things worse, not better.
Right.
And it would make things worse because
the more we tend to incentivize bad behaviors.
And I assume that you're talking about kind of what I Am's talking about in chat, where the labor market should self-regulate, and any time that you try to artificially direct that, you're going to have this elastic reaction where you've moved it so far away from its equilibrium that it will always snap back to equilibrium, but that might be a violent snapback if it's brought too far away from it. What now?
Yeah. If you take the price signal away, it doesn't work at all. Like that actually causes things to break down. If you're not allowed to look at what the going rate for actually, really good example of this happened in Russia when they were trying to make rivets. I know this story because I used to look at rivet facts when we first started the brand. And they'd actually reward all of the factories the same for the bulk of rivet production, like dump all the rivets that got manufactured into the same bucket, and they pay the factories out by volume equally, right? And then all the workers got filtered down or whatever. Well, they couldn't tell which factory was making faulty rivets, but it was making bridges fall over, right? So they had to implement a specific identifier, and the way that they did that was factories that produce these identifiers on these rivets will be paid only if they build a quality product. So they disincentivized the bad production, and it started to work. Price signals help make things better. Even if they don't feel fair in individual cases, sometimes they really do help.
But isn't that just saying you have to do a good job? Like you have to do your job within spec? But that was my only point, is if you have qualified people that can do the same job well to spec, why pay them differently based on their past?
Well, I mean, government is not a thing. I'm not concerned about that with a government job because they have a ridiculous pay scale system as it stands. Like obviously, if they're creating a Cobra effect that with this government pay scale system, which is I think what we're seeing here, right? That's what Joe Biden's trying to solve, is the Cobra effect created by the lockstep government pay system that they implemented to be more fair than the private sector. Right? We're going to tell you these scales, and you're going to get the same raise no matter what, and it's written in law, and you can see. Well, okay, now we have to fix that because we have Cobra farms and people are getting bit more, right?
I think like you're always going to be just because of we're not in a purely like an economic system, or we're not in like a real like free market where like the market can dictate prices and things like that. Because we're not in one of those kinds of systems, it's always going to be a process of putting a Band-Aid on a thing and taking the Band-Aid off and putting a Band-Aid somewhere else, sticking our holes in things, because you're also dealing with people, right? So like, cause I am is like kind of talking in the chat, like, yeah, if we like setting these like, what was I saying?
Well, let's not forget that all the money
prices
they're using to pay these people are taken from Americans at gunpoint.
Yeah.
So
and that's the problem. And like you have issues with people like not like having like a strict like rate increase, right? For
like,
what you were talking
I don't
about.
mean to be cruel, but I really don't care if they're underpaid. I care if they're overpaid.
If they're upperpaid?
If they're
overpaid.
I care. Yeah, I want them to work for as little as possible.
Well, maybe that's the same thing though.
Pay them,
I think that's kind of the same thing. Is the problem is that the people that are upperpaid or overpaid get to control everybody else. Hence why there's a giant writer's strike.
I'd be at something more on board with like across the boards leveling down to the lowest paid government worker for everyone. That would be a solution I'd be on board with. If they want equality in government work, I say do that.
I think you also run into issues with
like stop paying the guy at the top way more than the guy at the bottom. It's government. They don't have free markets. They shouldn't pretend one exists.
Yeah.
The writer strike's kind of an interesting thing too.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, they everything's getting pushed to with streaming services and all, to where being a writer is more like a gig job than a job.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they don't want to happen.
GPT is gonna take it over anyway.
Well, that's actually in it too. Is that AI, like AI use and things like that, are all part of their new negotiations now. There's a lot of.
But I was thinking maybe just the structure of, because I keep anytime there's anything like this, I just hear Greg in my mind talk about how the riding crop industry was super powerful. And had like political influence and tried to stop like the automotive, industry from exploding, and that just blows my mind that this little riding crop industry was that big. So I think it's maybe time for it to change. I think maybe writers need to be a bigger part of like the end process, like the back end money and getting money off action figures and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that all needs to change so that they're, even if it is kind of more of a gig job, they get a longer term paycheck.
That's basically what happened. Is Netflix was making a crazy amount of money off of these shows, and the writers were making nothing, right? And is just.
Oh, they should be getting a cut of everything.
And well, that's how it used to be for like television shows and stuff like that too, on network television.
When was it like that?
You could get like
there's a really good
was it like that perchance before writers guilds were acting like unions?
No,
I don't know.
Like, I think it's like it's that way also. I think for like normal shows that were on television, and now everything is turning into a streaming service, right?
I suspect
now
that somebody
NBC,
negotiated
CBS.
away unfair inequalities in a union contract at some point.
There's a really good. He would not call it a blog post, but it's a blog. George R.R. Martin has a website called Not a Blog, I think it's what it's called, and he has some things to say about the writer's strike that I thought were really interesting, and he spells things out pretty clearly about what the issue is. And one of the big things is it's like what Sean was talking about is what Martin was talking about, where people are put into, I don't know if he called them mini rooms or something like that, mini desks, I don't know, but they write a script, they go back and forth and churn one out, turn it over, and then that's the end of their basically gig. They don't get to be on for the rest of the production. They don't get to have experience on the set. They don't get to learn about the rest of the production. They don't get to participate in any of the royalties or any of that. And that's a big part of what the debate is about right now. Part of it's about AI. Part of it's about this practice of disposable gig economy writers, and that being the thing that's expected of everybody.
Right. Well, it sounds to me, though, that there's an opportunity in this. I mean, if I was looking at this from a free market standpoint, like I like to, I would say there's an opportunity to become a greater production company, because you could steal all the talent if you started involving your writers.
Well, that's always the argument, and that's been the argument about most things for a long time. But there's always the barriers to entry to get started with a production company.
The rules imposed by the union contract stop new entrants. Actually.
Well, that, but also some of that, but I think also more just like these production companies, like they're lobbying with like governments and being able to like control how production companies start and how they're able to film and where they're able to film, who gets the rights to go film in New York City and who's able to get a permit to do the shoot. Like they're going to give
this sort of gatekeeping that happens. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. It's like trying to rent an event space without hiring the event space union boss to
exactly. But it's also, but on that side is like the production side as well, because they've, like on one side they've spent all the time and energy and effort
so that other people can't compete with them because they don't like competition. It makes them have to work hard.
Well, it's also because they probably had to work hard at the start and now they don't want to let it go. Hey, we had to go through and do all these things, develop these relationships.
Great for you, but if you lose to somebody who's new, you should have to lose. Because
that's called kicking out the ladder, isn't it? Like not letting people climb the same ladder that you successfully climbed to get to.
There's also kind of a ratchet effect with union negotiations because they sort of, that's part of it, right? Like why do companies even bother negotiating with unions to begin with? When did that start? That started with sort of a big public-private partnership when they made the rule that you can't organize and strike without going to one of these official unions, and the official unions have to register with the government, and the government has to do this and that and the other in order to enable your union. Right? Like all of that stuff is what entangled the private and the public.
That's why.
How did they pay them off?
With
the economic events.
I Am has a new topic that sounds cool, but I wanted to hear what Lisa's talking about enough.
Yeah, what's up with enough?
What's about enough?
Enough with all the rulemaking from these people that aren't in charge of us. Enough big government. Enough, like stop asking. Free men don't ask permission. I'm tired of it. Aren't you guys?
Oh yeah.
Like enough.
It is encroaching. And it is out of touch.
Watch fucking Mitch McConnell say that his number one mission right now is to see through the situation in Ukraine for as long as it takes to dump.
Oh my God! Could you imagine if
complex?
Mitch McConnell
and all the shit going on at home we got? Like, what the fuck are these people thinking?
Can you imagine if Mitch McConnell and Janet Yellen had a baby? How frightened it would look all the time.
This is a different,
just like resting scared face.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how Janet Yellen always looks horrified. And Mitch McConnell's looks like
Janet Yellen looks like a bridge.
Like a scared fish all the time.
The best one is the one I sent you recently, Sean, where he's behind McCarthy, I think.
Yeah.
I wonder how many goats she eats a day.
Oh, here also. We'll send it in the private chat.
Kenneth says before she
Maybe Dave
diamonds
can
on
play
it.
it.
Lisa, that's kind of what I was meaning earlier when I said that eventually, this slow encroachment of hardship will reach its breaking point eventually, and sort of if it goes slow enough, this might be a strategy. I don't know. If it's slow enough, you can kind of start to feel out where the limits of society are, and then back off for it, so that you're just underneath that threshold to where folks aren't going to say enough and throw off the chains, that kind
I
of
paid
thing.
$12 for 1 pound of turkey yesterday. $12.
That's insane. It used to be
Pre-COVID,
$12
it
for a
was
whole turkey.
$3.50 for 1 pound.
Well,
Like
and-
we've been pushed to levels of insanity that we would not normally do. Like
And Lisa paid it.
Dude,
Lisa's
the weird
the most
part about that-
selfish person, and she paid it.
The weirdest part about that is people have trained to
I'm
think of it
giving
like
my
the price
child.
of turkeys going up, but really what they should be thinking is like, wow, it takes 3 times as many dollars to get a turkey now.
Yeah.
The value
Yeah.
of turkey has
Yes.
not changed.
Exactly.
That's such an
Nobody's-
alien concept for
I
so many
tried to explain that to people, and the only way you can get it is if you turn it into gold. If you say, "Hey, man," without the crazy, COVID, inflation, just say, "Hey, like 3 years ago, you could buy a loaf of bread for 99 cents or $1. Let's say gold was $1, an ounce of gold. You could buy a loaf of bread for an ounce of gold. Like 2-3 years later, bread's not like harder to get. It's not like wheat is gone.
It's the language.
Now
though.
bread costs $1.50 or $2 to buy now a loaf, but it
Right.
still only costs
But
1
Sean, you're
ounce
right.
of gold.
Well,
And
they're
then
exploiting
wait,
it.
you're
They're
right.
exploiting a ratchet effect too, right? Like that's
I
the
said,
problem.
see,
is
the
like when
gold isn't
people get
harder to
pissed
get out
enough
of the
to say that
ground.
all,
Nothing changed here. The only
don't
thing that
back all the way
changed
off.
is it takes 2 of the paper dollars to get that. The bread still's the same way to make it. It's still the same way to get it here. The gold is still the same coming out of the ground. Everything is the same, except it takes 2 pieces of paper now instead of 1.
Well, everything's
So
the same
paper's
except for
worth less.
the amount of
It's
dollars
not that the
available
bread
for the
costs
market to
more.
use.
We need to start saying it that way then. We need to say, like, how would you say that? Not the bread.
Prices aren't
not the
going up. The power
dollar's
of a
worth
dollar
less.
to purchase the same thing is going down.
Your
because there are
dollar's
too
worth
many of them.
less. Your dollar's worth less bread. It's worth less turkey.
Right,
It's
like-
worth less eggs. I saw this when I was a kid.
Oh,
I
actually,
laughed at it, and I never forget it. It was a little family circus cartoon in the Sunday Times. I must have been
guys,
like
here's
10
the
years old.
experiment.
Hold on, I want to hear about the circus first.
Yeah, let
Hey,
him finish this.
The little kid's walking in with his mom, and he's like, "Mom, I'm getting so strong. I used to be only able to carry $10 worth of groceries. Now I can carry $50 worth of groceries."
Aw.
That's perfect.
And
That's
I
great.
thought, you
Yeah.
like a 10-year-old. I was like, "Ha ha, stupid kid." You know what I mean? But now I get it. Yeah, that's
No, it's exactly right. So here's the experiment. Who here would volunteer to trade me a diamond for a bottle of water?
Sweet.
If I had like a bottle of
could,
water that I
sure.
could just give you right now and you had a diamond, would you trade it?
What was it? A bottle of water or a diamond?
Yeah.
And which one am I going to pick?
You guys each have a diamond. I got,
diamonds.
I got enough bottles of water to go around for everybody. You want one? Only cost a diamond.
I'll keep my diamond.
You'll keep your diamond.
I've got water.
Everybody else?
I'm good.
What are the
I
other
need more
Okay,
information.
okay.
Are
Now
there other
here's-
parameters to this
no,
experiment?
this is step one. So just
Are we
just
in the
give me a straight answer.
desert?
This isn't a
Are you
trick
the only
question.
one that has water?
This is the Benny game. Okay, I got water. I'm good.
So you want to trade? John, will you give me a diamond for a bottle of water?
Sure. Give me my bottle
Why?
of water.
Okay, but a deal. Here you go. Trade over. Hand it over.
I
Diamonds are
got the
worth
bottle
nothing.
of water now.
Right? No, diamonds are worth a lot. Right?
No,
they
they're-
are worth a lot in dollars, right? Okay, now
Not when
imagine
you go
you're
to sell
standing in the
them
middle of
after
the
you get a
Sahara and you've got a pack full of diamonds on your back, and I've got a fucking bottle of water.
No, I've got the bottle of water. You have a
No,
pack
no,
of
no.
diamonds.
Do the damn experiment. Come on. Seriously, would you trade me then if you were in the middle of the Sahara without any water?
Yeah.
In a vacuum, you kind of have to survive.
Because you need water to survive, and you can't drink shiny rocks, right?
Right.
Value is subjective, and it depends on the circumstances you're in. That's the point.
Okay. That follows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, I think you need to play the video really quick.
Mhm. All right, we got a video called. Oh yeah, great. Did you just make this?
I just made this.
All right, let's see what we got.
Oh,
There it is. Now we have this for every episode of World Blockchain Roundtable.
Nice.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
that feels like a Saturday Night Live sketch, like
The act of
Thoughts
murder
with Jack Handy or
is
something.
really just selfish, not wanting someone else to live. Letting your desire
Everyday
for
French
not
is
to
pure
live
ordinaire.
outweigh their right to live.
Well,
That's
I think this goes at the end of the conversation after it's happened, and that's been the. I'll probably change it so it's like everybody on World Blockchain has. I didn't want to make one so everybody has a different one, which would be way too
You
much
should
work.
capstone a clip with that, man, and then just like find clips of Sean just saying horrible things.
So here's the thing. I would love to.
Hey, Sean, real quick, say I think it's okay to eat puppies sometimes.
Well, if you're hungry, it depends on the.
Wait, now we have a clip of Greg saying that.
That's why they were bred.
Yes, you do.
In the same example that Greg gave about the
bread. There, that was a good one. That was a good
You guys
one
are
to
all
work
not
with on the
horrified
fly.
by this, you're in on it.
Yeah.
Do you know who said, "Kill them all and let God sort them out"?
Who said that?
I don't recall.
Duke Nukem?
I don't know.
Duke Nukem.
A lot of people think it was like Patton, right, or it was Corn Cob, but it was the Pope's legate. It was a papal legate when he committed genocide against that other order of the Catholic Church. It was like half the Catholic Church.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, they committed that genocide. Yeah,
that's insane.
He's the one. When people that came from like the Pope. Yeah, the Pope said.
I was, and my mind did immediately go to some general or some military leader or something like that. Yeah, which I guess military leader depends on what you consider the military.
So, what do you guys think of? Let's to jump subjects here. I want to throw
let's do that.
Current events out. What do you guys think of? Let's see what's going on. Tucker Carlson on Twitter.
Oh yeah, so that's a thing, I guess. So what happened there? Fox won't release him from his contract, even though they got rid of his show.
No, they did release him from his contract. They weren't going to, but he obviously knows shit because they're like, well, no, we have you here in these like golden handcuffs. You can't do this, and that's what. And then like literally a few days later, they let him go. So.
Right.
I think he's just very dangerous.
I thought
Twitter didn't have monetization like that. So
I thought that the whole reason that he was going to be on Twitter was because he could not work for a different network because of his contract with Fox.
That's exactly right.
And so now that they have released him from that, he's still going to be on Twitter, or is he going to go somewhere else?
He already announced Twitter, so I imagine he's.
Yeah, I think it's going to be huge, man. I think it's going to be huge for us. I think it's going to be huge for any kind of content creator. I think it's going to be. The problem with YouTube is you can say Rumble is a viable alternative, but it's not really a viable alternative because people aren't going there. People are slowly going there. It might make it, but it's not. And with any kind of tech, it's usually pretty instant. Like Facebook or from MySpace to Facebook, that was quick. You know, if you can remember back then, anytime there's some kind of something that pops, it pops quick.
Rumble needs some UI help before it's really good on mobile.
Well, but there's also a lot of fuckery that goes on too when these networks start up, like fake profiles, things that make it seem like there's activity. Because one of the problems we have on Den with adoption is that there's all your friends aren't there yet. You know, that kind of thing. So it's this sort of cold start problem where we don't hire people to go pretend like, you know, we don't have bots.
Right.
There are, you know, a lot of different dating websites would hire people to just go on dates with people, just to be somebody who's dateable, just to bootstrap their network, that kind of thing.
So they were literally a digital.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah. And so this happened with Twitter. This happened with Facebook. Facebook was a little bit different in that it was sort of like it got to ride that bandwagon of MySpace a little bit, and it started in this vacuum of like dorms, universities, stuff like that, and people just thought it was neat and fun, and they were like connecting with their friends in the dorm next to them and stuff like that. That one did seem to be a little bit more, I don't know if organic's the word, but it wasn't bot fueled. as
Yeah.
much. Twitter has still, this was a big problem with the acquisition with Musk, is that their claims about bot activity on Twitter, when they went public, they said it was 5%. And then they never updated that to a higher number as bots.
So it's always been like
Even if that was true in the beginning, they still maintained that it never had more than 5% bots, which is lying to their advertisers and to their shareholders and to the SEC and all of this stuff.
But
Because
even
you
if it has
can't
like
monetize
20%,
bots. They don't have
still-
jobs.
even if it has 20% bots, it's still a top tier social media site.
Yeah, they can't pay.
And that's the thing. It's up there. It's
Yeah. I was specifically responding to what you were saying about other networks not being a viable alternative, and I think you're probably right.
Right.
But it's probably because they did not.
Everything just needs
cheat.
one.
Well,
It's
they
like
probably
one
also
thing
just
that
want to
makes
keep
it
paying
pop.
them after
One
they realize
thing
it's going to be able to do
that
it
turns
anyway.
the tide. One thing that changes it. I think if Rogan went on Rogan, that's it. Den's over. It's huge. It's
Right.
massive.
Like
if Joe
primetime
Rogan
TV
or
gets
Joe Rogan,
less
that
viewers
Den
than
would
like
be,
most Twitter Spaces.
overnight.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Den.Dow would vote to hand over like a lot of ownership to somebody like Rogan or like Lex Friedman or somebody who has this just millions of people reach kind of thing, because that would bootstrap the entire network.
One of the
You could get that huge pump, that giant. Anyway, but my point is that Tucker Carlson, if he can bring over like a regular show and turn
Dow to recruit somebody
if
famous
he can
to
bring
Den.
some of YouTube to Twitter and make it a T-tube or something, even if it's a different section, even if it's a different part, that would be, and there's content creators, all different kinds, that are not just, conspiracy ones and crazy ones, but like, gun ones and other ones, and just ones that are tired of being censored in any way or worrying about anything, stuff that would not be. I mean, there's people that get in trouble for things and channels that get in trouble for things that have nothing really controversial. Lisa just got a warning for cyberbullying.
I got a warning on Twitter recently too. Yeah, what'd you get, Lisa?
No, so on my YouTube channel, I got a warning, like it's like a pre-strike, because someone came in the chat and started harassing me for being a parent of a black child and making rude comments and whatever, and turned it into this whole race thing. And we said, you're the only one that's bringing up race. And why are you even talking about my child? And anyway, this whole thing. And then I got the warning then I got the SWAT without being able to defend myself.
That sucks.
That was terrible.
I got a similar thing on Twitter because I posted that we were doing the coffee show Wednesday morning, and I left a link to join the call and said, "Go nuts." And apparently Go Nuts caught the filter, and it put a big warning label on me. I was like, really? Go Nuts? You can't say Go Nuts?
Or was
I was like, all right.
Promoting
are they outlawing these nuts jokes? I mean, I realize those are kind of trite, but like,
you get caught up on this automated AI bot fueled.
Well, I mean, they're still working on changing a lot of shit. That sounds like a pull request on the open source code, not a thing that Elon Musk wants to do.
We got about 6 minutes left, 6 to 8, before we have to have a hard stop. But I wanted to say, Sean, the rest of like that. What was I even saying? I was saying, here's what it was. It is a way to bootstrap your network. It is a way to bring a lot of people in all at once, to get somebody who's highly influential or has a big following and things like that. What I'm concerned about with that is that, and we've seen it work this way with like, what's the one that Kanye bought? They got canceled by big tech. Parler, right? Parler was really popular because one demographic who was being marginalized was like, fuck it, we're all going over there.
Actually,
and it did see a lot of people join and use the network, but it became really one-sided because of that. Same kind of thing happened on Den.Social. It got a lot of use and it still has more users than Den, but it's really one-sided and it's really one opinion. And that's not like, I don't want that opinion, but I don't want that lopsidedness. Is what I'm.
Well,
Is
I mean,
what I'm hoping
unless what
for.
we have is a plurality of systems that people use, right? Like it's okay for Truth.Social to exist so long as Twitter also exists, right? But you have to use both if you want to get two different experiences.
I'm just saying that the much harder thing to do is let an organic adoption happen to where people slowly over years come onto it from all sorts of walks of life, all different countries, all different political views and things like that. I don't know if it's possible. It's hard.
Isn't it?
I don't
Is
know.
that part of being responsible?
I think
Like I was talking about
happen,
with
but I think if you have the big thing all at once, and that's one of the big things about Parler is you had that huge kind of one side, but then the other side was coming to combat that, and that's when it got shut down. So I think that one side pulls the other one in. Trump Social is an anomaly because it has to do with Trump, so people will just not mess with it because he's an anomaly. There's people that hate him so much.
It's a branding issue.
Yeah.
What about the way that what was that network where they it was live talk that was basically like Twitter Spaces
Clubhouse.
You remember how they started?
It was exclusive. It was invite only. Not allowed in.
We started off with these celebrities.
And you know what they did that was interesting, that I thought was interesting, dude, was they said, okay, you can only come in here if you get invited, and then you can invite somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody that you invite gets banned or gets in trouble or does something stupid that the community doesn't like, not only them, but you also get banned. Like you have to be careful about who you extend the invitations to, because you're vouching for them. And if this person that you invited into the club, to the clubhouse, fucks off and gets in trouble, you get in trouble too.
Right. And they got the digital equivalent people lining up outside the Apple store for an iPhone watch, right? Like that's how they bootstrap that.
So exclusivity.
So maybe there's something in that for Den. Like if we really wanted to go crazy, I'd be like, okay, you can't come in, but we're going to hire these celebrities to come in.
So you know how for Facebook you had to have a college email account. What if for Den you have to have a Proton account or some shit?
Yeah, something that's not
sign up.
That's great.
Account. You should have to have like an ENS. You should partner with ENS on this.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. If you sign up with an ENS or a Proton Mail or some kind of like privacy respecting or decentralized thing, you get like an automatic pro account or some kind of boost or something. That's an interesting idea.
When I was a financial advisor, that was a sales technique that we came up with. It was amazing.
The exclusivity thing.
You go through your whole pitch. You're like blah blah insurance, blah blah mutual funds, blah blah this, blah blah whole life, blah blah term life, blah blah this mutual fund, that mutual fund. And then in the end, you're like, it's pretty cool, man. And they're ready for, they're all ready to be like, no, I can't afford it. I got to talk to my wife. It's like, yeah, you can't have it. I'm like, what? Well, only so many people can qualify for this. Let's see if you can qualify for it. Here, fill out this questionnaire. We'll see if you're allowed to get it. And then all of us think, what? And they're like, it's like, I really want to save money. It's like circle 1 to 5. I'm very excited. How excited are you about getting this plan started? Very excited, super excited.
So it was all pure marketing and everybody got it, but they made them feel like they were special.
I'm excited about getting this financial plan started. They give it to me like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't get it. What? Like, well, you're only very excited about, getting it started. You're not super excited. Statistically, you'll only be doing this for like 6 months or a year, and then it'll drop off. You're not what we want. You're not excited enough. Like, I was like, oh, you can change it. Here,
you can update your answers.
I swear I would do it. Your initial, cross that out, your initial, and you circle super excited. And then I'm super excited.
That brings up the point.
All right, let's do the paperwork. I'll take your money now.
Is this
thank you, sir?
I think this is the Morality Minute with Sean again. I love it.
That's pretty good though, because that's like, it's this thing about getting people amped up and excited about it. Decentralization is hard. I am in chat was like talking about Den.Social, and he's not sure why it hasn't taken off. I think it's because decentralization is hard. There's not a VC funding development. There's not the types of, like I said, like these sort of artificial bootstrapping I talked about before. That's not being done. And the moderation, the mods, the admins are you. And a lot of people don't expect to have that responsibility, and so they don't think about doing it and using
You
it.
need a marketing team now.
Yeah, and
basically.
so really, it's a herding cats issue kind of thing. It's
I
a
mean,
it's a
you need
decentralization as a viable
micro-influencers
strategy
to come
issue.
join the lair. Honestly,
Greg-
like, 'cause that's on you.
Greg said it. Greg said it on our show on Wednesday. If you tuned in, you know what we're talking about. We did $120,000 to get Den off the ground and go in hard. $20,000 a month for 6 months and marketing, and then this is $1 billion.
Well, here's
That's roughly
one.
what it would
So
cost to
check this
buy.
out real quick.
That's what I just said.
Check this out. Here's a real actual thing that Den.DAO has discussed. That is I don't know if it's in the white paper or not, but it's probably, I think it is, because there's personal lot talked about in the white paper. And so as an incentive to get creators to come onto the platform, we would literally offer founder governance ownership tokens to creators, to content creators. So if they think they can bring people over and monetize on Den, they can literally own Den. And what other platform allows you to come in as somebody who's popular, bring your weight in, and earn through your engagement, through your community, literally earn control of ownership of not just your layer, not just your community, which anybody can do anyway, but the literally Den.DAO that owns the entire website, the entire social
You can
platform
say,
as a
I
controlling
vote to change
founder
this
entity.
button to this side of the screen and turn it green.
So
and
we
put
have
my name on it.
so we have this sweat equity model that we have not implemented, but it's something that's on the table of like, how do we get people who know how to build communities to come in and do it here, and you own it, you know. And if Den.DAO ever votes to, let's say if Den.DAO votes to allow the sale of Den to some other entity, right? What if it gets sold? Well, when that happened on YouTube, the people that spent so much time building up YouTube on these channels, they didn't get shit, right? YouTube sold and made a bunch of money, but the creators that were the meat, the working machine of the site, they didn't get shit from that sale, right? But in this situation where it is a DAO, you would be enriching the people that started it, that got it going. And so that's kind of the pitch that we're sort of thinking of going with.
Have to make the decision.
Because if everything on YouTube sucked, nobody would have acquired the company. Because nobody would be watching.
What was that, Lisa?
Wouldn't the participants be making that decision to sell too?
They would.
It's
absolutely.
Not happening to them, it's they are creating
Yes.
that decision.
Yes, 100%. Yep. It would be a Den.DAO, like, hey, here's an interested party. They want this much ownership to, you know, for this much funding, and then that means they get control of, you know, this percentage of the vote and that kind of thing. They would have to buy out the founder lot. They would have to. That's just how it works.
And if you refuse to sell, if you're like, you know, if it's BlackRock or Halliburton or like, you know, somebody evil that you hate, you don't want to have in control of this thing, then you can refuse to sell too.
Mm-hmm.
People can vote against it, and everybody on Den has, even if you don't have founder lot, everybody on Den. We've got to wrap up really quick, I guess. But I was even thinking about this earlier about making like a how to take over Den guide, because it's all there. It's all like available for anybody to do. You could literally earn or buy or provide liquidity to get governance votes to the point where you can just go be a whale on Den and make all the decisions. There's specific ways to do it. We incentivize anybody who uses Den to be able to vote in Den.DAO based on behavior, not necessarily by how much they own or how much tokens they bought, but by the behaviors that they exhibit.
Also, get ready for special access to games that are co-developed and stuff like that.
It's decentralized too. So
if you've ever wanted to be
BlackRock
like
or Halliburton, they couldn't come and
have a game designer build a custom character for you.
Also, if it was still there, I am for him deleted it. But one of the topics for World Blockchain Roundtable was marketing, how to market Den and get people to.
Oh yeah,
Den.
that's right.
But he deleted it because we're not supposed to talk about Den on the show. But you should have just kept it. And then if we update it, then
we can talk about it on Den.DAO. Well, because one of the things is a topic for the week shouldn't be about Dragon Chain or Den. It should be generalized, blockchain.
The idea
stuff.
is dog fooding the platform as if we were somebody else.
We literally have seconds, y'all.
Yeah, I know it.
We could have been like, if it was us, how would we do this? Anyway.
Bye.
All right. We got to go. Thanks, everybody. Go watch everybody's things on other platforms and then also do it on Den too. All right.
Rogan,
Sean, we need memes in the meme layer.
If you want to talk to me for a long time and you think you have interesting stuff to say, send me a message. You can be a guest.
Den, let's do Crypto Rogan. Lisa, I'll see you on Truth Tuesdays and the new normal. John, go teach your improv class. I'll be on Den.Dow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
No mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted party. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party.